Hello fellow TCS enjoyers. I'm making another tutorial, mostly because I don't want to have to explain it a million times to people in text, so I'd rather just show people this video and link it when I need to. This is the nuclear program system, developed entirely today in around 3.5 hours, and I'm pretty sure it's going to solve like 90% of our problems we've had in the past with who's allowed nukes and who isn't. To start out, I guess I should just explain how to use it, and I don't think I need to get too in depth in all the details. I'll start off with how you could go about creating a nuclear program if you don't already have one. The US, UK, France, Soviets, Indians, Chinese, Swedish, and Israeli players start with a nuclear policy. However, this is hardly a program and more just reflects they were toying with ideas and stuff. At this point, this is more to ensure that they're able to keep up with their real life dates rather than it is specific official creations or whatever. But the Chinese, UK, US, French, and Soviets, they have like fully fledged programs ongoing that we'll work with. So to start a program, well, assuming you're, say, Spain, you could go to your nuclear policy and you set it to theoretical research. That means that you are creating the foundation to build your program. You can then choose an amount that you would like to invest. We'll say a billion, and this is probably around the higher end of where you'd want to invest, because beyond a billion you start to see diminishing returns. So if we look, we get 2 billion from a billion in how this system works. So we get $2 billion of value from our billion inputted. If we increase this to 2 billion, instead of seeing 4 billion there, we will see a much smaller number, 2.6. So that means that additional billion is only made up for around 600k of actual value, and so on. If we go to 5 billion, we're still only at 3.8. So a billion is like the max where you get the full bang for your buck, and it's like the recommended price that you should be paying for these. So say the Spanish want to create one, they would set it to theoretical research, they would invest $1 billion, and they would make a roleplay post. This is required for the transition between every policy here. And yeah, you would just create it. It can be a secret post, obviously. You don't need to announce to the world that you're creating nukes, because that would be a terrible idea in most cases. But yeah, you'd need to RP something to establish when it starts. And then the year changer will take this and it will cross it over and say in 4 years' time, the Spanish have now completed the theoretical research phase. They can stay on theoretical research, mostly because it is harder to be detected when you are developing. However, they can also choose to increase the experimental testing now. And say another 4 years pass and we're doing this experimental testing, and we reach our next phase. Again, we can stay on experimental testing, but we're more likely to want to go to weaponization attempts. And the benefit of this is it can drastically, or in this case not that drastically, but by a year, improve the time it takes for you to get to the next stage. And the ultimate goal is to reach the higher stages. So if we now look weaponization and we go for 6 years, obviously this would be done by the year changer typically. Now we have deliverable payload as an option. Now deliverable payload is unique. As we can see, it significantly improves our development. But if we now go to the WMDs tab for Spain, here, the Spanish state should now be capable of producing 5 atom bombs a year. And now say we stick on this and we go for another 8 years, like it says. Right. So deliverable payload would be Deliverable payload would be you are developing nuclear weapons that theoretically should work. You have the ability to create them and you understand them. You have not tested them and you don't intend to test them. So you can keep working on them for another 16 years, at which point you can start to mass produce these. Or you could go into practical testing, which again requires roleplay posts, which significantly drops your production time, your development time. You go to practical tests, and immediately next year you are going to be discovered that you are working on this nuclear program, as you have 100% visibility. This means that a GM event will occur, and everyone in the world will know that you've done this, unless you make your own post publicly stating the test happened. So this is optional. If you wanted to go under the radar, you could carry on with deliverable payload. It is unlikely that you'll remain under the radar, as you still have pretty high visibility from this. However, it is more of a possibility, and obviously you always have the element of denial, or you might be discovered by someone who's your ally or something, as opposed to someone who's an enemy. Say we do go practical test, just to make this go faster. We then go another 7 years, and by the way, while we're on practical tests, and we go to WMDs, Spain now has the capability to produce 10 nuclear weapons a year. As we carry on, and we keep developing, we can now choose to opt for an operational nuclear arsenal. Now this can still be under the radar. This is the ability to mass produce nuclear weapons, and it is pretty likely that you'll be discovered within 2, maybe 3 years of having your operational nuclear arsenal. However, if we go back to Spain, we will see they are now capable... Okay, that needs correcting. The formula's obviously gone wrong somewhere, but they'll be capable of mass producing the atom bombs that they wish to produce. That being said, if we have a situation where we stop maintaining this, say for 2 years, or however many it takes to go belief, we are now in the red. We can leave this on, operational nuclear arsenal. However, our production will revert back to before that level. It will revert back to practical testing or whatever the next one is. Or production will cease altogether. So you want to try and maintain this to avoid such a situation. I'm going to revert all of this, however. So we have the starting numbers back to where they were. Okay, and we'll put them back on no program. Now, we look at a situation like the USSR. The USSR. We say we invest into them. They now have a 23% visibility. What this means is that every year a dice will roll, and there is a 23% chance that the Soviets will be discovered for their nuclear program. River is now interrupting the tutorial unknowingly. Beyond that, your policy impacts your visibility, namely when it's operational nuclear arsenal or practical tests. And yeah, and you can see your effective spending here. This is the value you get out of your money. So if we invest $1 billion as the USA, we will see they get 15 billion in return, 15.7 billion in return. And you can see the reasons for that is they've got global, also they've got practical tests, which vastly improves their spending. They have high GDP per capita, represents basically you're paying people more wages, so you get less people for the same thing. You get less of the money is going to productive things, and it's more going directly to the same workers. R&D per capita is capped at 300%, as you can tell. And is one of the leading ways of improving your efficiency here. Infrastructure compares your infrastructure capacity balance to the average. Military industry compares your effective military industry to the average. And industrial modifier compares your factory count to the average. Altogether, this results in these values, which end up being applied to your effective spending. Maintenance will always cost, I think, a 0.05% of your or 0.5% of your production balance, and comes out of effective spending rather than direct spending. So I believe that covers everything. If you want to know where the finances come out here, if we look at the budget tab, the Soviets who are currently investing, it comes out of their defense, personnel readiness and nuclear spending section. I believe that covers practically everything that needs to be covered here. So good luck using the system, and I hope you enjoy.